The next thing we're going to be working on today is rounding. So we're going to use what we know about place value with decimals to help us round. And so it says round each number to the given place value. And this one says integer. When we're talking about integer, remember that when we're talking about integers, the definition of integer is whole number and its opposites. And so we're rounding to the nearest whole number or to the nearest ones place here. So when I round, I'm always going to underline the given place value and look one place to the right. When I do that, my 0 tells my 7 to stay the same because 5 or higher tells me to round up. 4 and smaller tells me to stay the same. So just kind of rounding rules. 5 and higher tells me to round up. 4 and lower tells me to stay the same. So this 0, I'm ignoring the 9 completely because it is not one place to the right. So I'm just going to completely ignore this. The 0 tells my 7 to stay the same. And to the nearest ones place, 27 and 900ths rounds to 27. So when we're rounding, really we're thinking about if we count by ones, 27, 28, 29, what is this number closest to? It's closest to the whole number 27. And so that's what we're doing when we round. And we're going to use rounding and estimating later on to make sure that our answers make sense. So that's kind of why we're doing this, this mini lesson here to start Unit 4. So this next one says 95 and 65 hundredths to the nearest tenths place. So I'm going to underline my tenths place and look one place to the right. 5 and higher tells me to round up, so my 6 is going to go up. And I've got 95 and 7 tenths. 95 and 65 hundredths rounded to nearest tenths place is 95 and 7 tenths. If I was counting by tenths, this would fall exactly between 95 and 6 tenths and 95 and 7 tenths. But because it's halfway between, then we push it over and say that it rounds up to 95 and 7 tenths. This very last one, 125 and 254 thousandths, rounded to the nearest hundredths place. Well, we've got tenths and hundredths. My 2 is in my hundredths place, and it's going to look at my 5. Remember that 5 tells me to round up, and so I'm going to round my 2 up. Everything in front will stay the same, 125 and 0, and then this 2 rounds up to a 3. So 125 and 3 hundredths is my answer here. The 5 tells my 2 to round up, and everything in front stays the same. And then I just drop off everything at the end. Everything at the end kind of rounds out to 0, has no value, and so we don't write it here. At this point in time, again, I would challenge you to pause the video and try these 3 and then come back to see how you did. Okay, so this first one, round to the nearest integer, means round to the nearest ones place. So the 2 is in my ones place. The 6 tells my 2 to round up. And 142 and 615 thousandths, rounded to the nearest ones place, is 143. 182 and 93 thousandths, rounded to the nearest tenths place. 0 is in my tenths place, and my 9 tells my 0 to round up. And so 1 more than 0 is 1. So 182 and 93 thousandths, rounded to the nearest tenths place, is 182 and 1/10. And this very last one was a little tricky. 599 and 9,999 10,000ths, rounded to the nearest hundredths place. The first 9 after the 0 is in my hundredths place, and it looks over here. This 9 tells my other 9 to round up. And 1 more than 9 is 10, and so really what happens is we end up moving the 1 over here into the tenths place, and rounded to the nearest hundredths place, we've got 599 and 10 hundredths, or 1/10, is how I'd write that rounded answer. And so now we're going to take, in the next video, our what we know about place value and what we know about rounding to estimate some answers with adding and subtracting negatives.